Welcome back, everybody, to the second recap of my tournament games. I am Gerrit Janse from Rensburg, and I also go by the name Basil Millwood. I'm somebody that has, well, I play chess, and I enjoy it, and I want to see how good I can get. And I want to go through the games I played in this tournament and say what I could have, possibly done better, what I think I could have done better, as well as to just, really just, maybe you can learn something from it. I'll maybe even tell you what you could do. And, so something I didn't say in the previous video, which I should have because, I'm supposed to do my job, is that the tournament is 7 rounds. 3 rounds on the first day, 3 rounds on the second day, and 1 round on the third day. The time control is 60 minutes on the clock for both players, and then 30 seconds increments. So each player starts with 60 minutes, and each move they make adds 30 seconds to their clock. And so also maybe there's somebody that's listening or watching this, and you go, okay, but what's a good move? Or not a good move, what's a round? And essentially a round is just a game, and your rating places you in a starting rank in the tournament, and each and every round, depending on the result of your game, you either go up or go down in the rankings. And so, to give you the details of the fourth round, I am now on 3 out of 3 points going into my fourth round. So I started on board. Let me check. I can't see it. Anyways. So the game I started to play was against a Luca Kock, and Luca here was playing white. I was playing black, and he opened up the game with e4. So with e4, I play as my primary repertoire c5, the Sicilian. This is called the Sicilian opening, and I didn't know what he could play, because he could go for an open Sicilian, which I both want to play so that I get more experience in it, but at the same time I've seen more people, or at least the previous games I've seen in the tournament I've played, actually the previous game I played as black, I got a Sicilian, but it was the closed Sicilian. So I was expecting him to play either one of those two. Instead, he went for c3, which is known as the Alapin variation of the Sicilian defense. And quite simply, the idea behind c3 is very simple. It's to play d4 immediately. Also, you'll notice that there's like eval bar today on, and I decided let's put it on. You guys can follow the eval bar, and it will also help me, actually take a closer look at the computer and explain why the eval bar goes up and down. Anyway, so the whole idea for c3 is just to be able to play d4, and basically, if this happens, let's say, I don't know, let's say I play this move as not a good move, white would play this, and the problem would be, actually, a better example would be this. So if white can play this and I don't take, and I play this, he just takes over the whole center, and as you can see, the evaluation bar agrees with me. It's usually a very bad idea to allow something like this to happen, and so I'd be forced to take back, and I would be forced to take on d4 with my pawn on c5, and he would take back, and he'd have this very nice center. I would have no real center control anymore, and he could easily march these pawns down and just start to choke my position. So, looking at this, well, so my opening knowledge as far when it comes to this is to play the following move, knight f6. And simply the idea behind knight f6 is just to say, you can't defend your pawn anymore with your knight. You'd either have to push your pawn to d3 to protect it, or play bishop d3, which looks ugly, but that's, as far as I know, actually a line. We play this followed by bishop c2. Otherwise, the other line is simply to play e5, which is the main line, which goes something like this. And there's a few ways to play this, but it looks a lot like the Alyoukin's defense. And the next move that white could play to further just chase the knight away is, well, simply to bring out the bishop to c4, attacking the knight. Knight moves to b6, hitting the bishop. Bishop would probably move back to g6. No, b3, sorry. And you would play c5 and bring out your knight to c6 and so forth. So, that is all to say. The next move completely took me out of my opening knowledge or prep, as he played queen c2. Now, as you can see, the eval bar starts to think it's starting to slowly but surely begin to get better for black. As really, this is not a mistake or an inaccuracy, but it's also not really a great move or an excellent move or so forth. It does protect the pawn, but at the same time, you could have just played d3. I don't think it's the worst, but that's probably why I wouldn't play the Alapin. But okay, so he played this. It's nothing wrong. It's not a blunder or anything of that case. White is very much still in the game. So for my next move, I just decided to play knight c6 with the clear intent of, well, developing a second piece and while stopping e5. I expected him to either play knight f3 or c5, bishop c5 at this point, getting ready to castle, getting his pieces into the game. Actually, also, I played c6 here because I did not want to allow this. I was 100% thinking that if he plays d4 right now, I'm gonna take, he's gonna, with my c pawn, I'm gonna take c takes d4, he's gonna play c takes d4, knight takes d4, and the queen needs to move. And yes, I think that would have been, that was more or less my idea at that point. So, when he played knight f3, well, basically knight f3, well, supports d4, makes that plan simply not viable for me. And so I decide that I don't really want to allow him to play d4 at all. And this is why I played e5 in this position. I'm just saying I've got 3 pieces, or 2 pawns and a knight, controlling d4, while he has only at most 2 pieces, a pawn and a knight, controlling it. So if he were to play d4, he would just simply lose a pawn. Or rather, actually, if he were to go through the whole thing, yeah, he would be down a pawn. Anyways, So when I played that, I didn't really know what to expect. I expected him actually to play something like bishop to b5, and that's why my next move was most likely gonna be bishop d6. And so the next move that he played completely surprised me, as he played d3. Now, this is in fact seen as an inaccuracy by white, and well, I would say it's a move. I don't think it's not a mistake, but the reasons I would say it's, not the best is, well, once you develop your bishop, you fianchetto it to g2 because you want a castle, you want to develop your bishop, etc., etc. The problem is your bishop is looking directly into the pawn on e4. It's a brick wall, essentially, biting into cement. It's not really gonna hit anything. There's nothing in its line of sight that it can affect. And if you play something like h3, that could be maybe, yes, it's not bad, but at the same time it's not that great. But yes, so the idea is pretty much it would have probably been better to play bishop to b5 or c4. Just put the bishop somewhere else. It would be one move to develop your bishop and then castle. Whereas this takes him 1, 2, 3 moves to castle. So he's taking more time than needed to castle. And so I'd played this move. Now, I know how it looks. I know it looks absolutely stupid and not looking good at all, and the computer itself thinks that this is an inaccuracy, but I swear I've seen this played in games. And the main idea behind this was, I also really didn't like the idea that this knight is just constantly looking at this. Because there is an idea I saw, and it's pretty much to still play d4. I would take, he would take. And, okay, I had ghosts. I saw ghosts here. But anyway, so the idea was pretty much, I want to put my bishop here. And next move after I've castled, I want to put my bishop on c7, so that this pawn is always protected, and then play d5 myself. And so what happened was, he played bishop g2, as that was his whole idea. If he played something differently, or played a different move with his bishop, unless it was h3, which, I mean, it's not maybe the worst idea, but I wouldn't play that. I don't think it's that good. It would this at least justifies g3. If he didn't do it, he has to have a good reason for not doing it. But anyways, I castle and he castle, and this is when I play c7 because, well, I don't see a move for him that will be fast. He's either gonna play d3, or maybe he's gonna play d4. He's not putting the knight on a3. If he does, it's not a good place for his knight to be. Maybe he can bring it into the game somehow by playing to one of these squares, but I doubt it is a good move. And so, well, he decided to play d3, which was fine with me, as, well, he's most likely just going to pin me, which I thought was fine. I actually considered for a bit here whether I should play h6 or not, just stopping it. Because, well, a pin that's on your knight is usually just annoying. But I was like, let me play d5 instead. I want to build this great center, and after that is played, I can also develop my other bishop. Just get everything into the game. And so I played d5 for that very reason. He played bishop d5, and interestingly enough, the computer thinks the best move here is to play d4. Now, something I've done wrong in the last two games, in my opinion, was, or rather the last game. The second game was still fine. Or round 5's game, if you will. Round 6, I touched my center without having sufficiently good reason. I try not to touch my center unless I'm forced to, or I think it's tactically winning. And I just simply miscalculated the lines for the 6th round, but I was lucky. Anyways, he played bishop g5, and I continued with my plans of just playing this. If he takes, I will take back with my queen, and it would be nice to have a defender on the pawn, because, well, if let me put it this way: if I play h6 now, he takes, I take back, he takes, and suddenly I have to move my my knight, and I don't really want to do that unnecessarily. I want to be able to take the pawn back immediately, and so that's why I played e6. Again, the computer prefers d4. I think it's just simply to take space away. Idea is also that if he takes, he has to take back, and if he locks it, well, he can't play knight c3 at all, and there's not really a future for his knights, if that makes sense. Like, the only knight that could maybe do something is the knight on f3, and that's to try and play knight takes on e5. The other knight will most likely enter the game in that position via knight b to d2, and yeah, it doesn't like so much potential space is taken away. He would probably have to rotate to b3, and it's not really that great. But anyways, he decided to play rook e1, which was another inaccuracy, and I'm pretty sure his idea was that when he takes me on e4, if the d5, sorry, when e takes d5, and I take back, he has two attackers on my e5 pawn. But I had enough defenders, and I didn't really see other reason for him to play that. To be honest, the best move for him, apparently in the position, was to take either my knight, or to take my pawn, or to develop his knight. And my first instinct would be in this position to just play your knight and try to get your pieces into the game. But okay, played this, and I decided I'll play h6, which apparently was also not great. The best move apparently for me is still to play d4, with the second move actually being h6. So again, the computer's like, inaccuracy at something better. But I think this isn't a bad move. Simply put, I don't want him to pin me anymore. And if he were to, play... Like, the thing is, he doesn't have a lot of squares for his bishop. This wouldn't happen. He would either have to put his bishop on d3, or, e3, d2, or back on its starting square of c1, which is bad, as those are pretty much the only safe moves. And I'll be honest, I might actually have played, if he played this, I probably would have played d4, as this forces pretty much, it doesn't really force a trade of pawns, but it does take away even more squares from his bishop, forcing it to move even more. And the reason also why he has to go to one of these three squares is if he went here, that would just be, and I at least thought it was a blunder, because your g5 just, traps it. I actually did ask myself, but what if he sacrifices in this position, something like this? now my king is extremely open, but I did say to myself that I don't think it's that dangerous right now, because he can't really, well, enter the game very fast with his queen. Or rather check me that easily, get his king into the action, with the same with his rook and stuff. It's not going to be that easy or fast to get going, the attack on my king. So I was willing to go for this, because even though it's 2 pawns for a minor piece, it's still a minor piece that he's missing. And that should have an effect for my game. But he decided instead to play knight f6. And in this position, I stood back. There isn't really a better move. And his next move was to play e takes. And so there's only really one move, and the whole reason I played this move in the first place, besides just developing the piece, bishop takes on d5. Now, there's something sort of interesting, or not interesting, but as you can see, the evaluation doesn't think it thinks black has a slight advantage, which honestly I think black's play is much easier here. Positionally speaking, I don't think black has easy moves to make. I will admit there was some stuff here that made me a bit iffy. Like when he played knight b to d2, I would say I was considering him playing this maybe next move. And if he was going to take that, play that, I might have actually played bishop takes c4. And the reason being, he would create doubled pawns on the c file. It's a weakness, and I could take the open file of my rooks. But yes, I didn't really see too much. I thought the best I can do in the position right now to further improve it is just to bring in my rooks, or activate my rooks, because where they are currently, they're not doing anything. And so I played rook f to e8 first, with the idea of adding another defender to my e5 pawn, and maybe even enabling it to move in the future. And my opponent decided here to play c4. Now, the problem for him was, this is called, if I'm not mistaken, if this was colors reversed, this would be called the Marozzi bind. Okay, you do get the Marozzi bind in black as well, but the idea is simply with the e pawn and c pawn as they are right now, it stops your opponent from playing d4 easily at all, or makes it very hard to play your e pawn forwards. And with this move, he, in a huge sense, in my opinion, was ceded the center to me. Of course, I moved my bishop. I didn't trade it for his knight, by the way, because my bishop, it's a pretty good bishop. It's not doing much right now, but I'm basically trading it for a knight, which, okay, is good, but immediately gets retaken by a worse knight that instantly gets better. So really no good reason to do that. And what I'm talking about is bishop takes on f3. I just played e6. But, yes, so by playing c4, he can't play d4 anymore. That's really out of the cards for him. And it makes it rather difficult. He'd probably have to try and play on the queen side with plays like pawn to b4. But his next move was to play knight e4, attacking my queen. And actually not just attacking my queen, but forking my pawn on c5. And so I decided to just, also activated this knight in the process, and there's a very good chance that maybe he played c4 exactly to support his knight. But I'm not sure. He could have played knight c4, the previous move, and if I took with my bishop, his pawn structure might actually be. I would actually say his pawn structure is better than it is right now. So I just played my queen back to e7, protecting my pawn and getting it out of the knight's way. And his next move was to play knight c3, which I think I understand why he played it. And it was most likely to play knight d5, putting his pawn in this, his knight in the center, making it much stronger. And I would probably trade my light squared bishop at that point for the knight, because, well, I don't like how active that knight is. It's it's in my face, and it is getting annoying. But also, he doubles his pawns on the d file, and, well, I'll probably be able to pick up that pawn easily. So, at this point, I was considering the question myself of what should I play now? Should I play my rook a to d8? Should I not? Should I maybe make use of ideas that on these types of positions to play something like knight to c4? But I didn't like the idea of his knight taking my knight. I would take back probably with e5. E takes d5, d4. I think that was my consideration in that position. I didn't really think I would play c takes. But so I was just sitting here and wondering what I should play, and I asked myself, is there any targets or weaknesses in my opponent's position? And that's when I realized that this pawn on d3 is a backwards pawn. A backwards pawn is a pawn that's, well, there's no other pawns next to it that supports it, and it's supporting another pawn. In this case, the d3 pawn is protecting the c4 pawn, and there's no pawn other than the c4 pawn next to this pawn protecting it. So it's a backwards pawn. And that allowed me to see if I was going to attack it. The move that I played, knight to b4. And yes, I'm just simply targeting the pawn, and I'm targeting the queen. He played queen e2, just getting out of the way of the knight's attack, and I decided I'll just put more pressure on the weakness to try and take it at the end of the day, and so that's why I played rook a to d8. And honestly, I could take the pawn at this point. It's not really possible not to take it. Now, interestingly enough, the computer thinks it's equal if knight takes e5 happens, which I completely missed in the position. Because, well, I missed it. So, really, the reason it works is you're going to end up in this type of position. And yeah, I could take here, but then queen just simply goes to e2, and the rook is not really doing much at this point. He can then play later on something like a3, attacking the only defense of my rook. And yeah, the rook, I'll be honest, the computer is a scumbag. So I do like to look at the computer for its ideas and stuff, but at the same time, I don't take its word as law all the time. Anyway, so if he played that, he would also be protecting the pawn. But I missed it, my opponent missed it, and he played a move which makes 100% well, makes a lot of sense to me, and it's bishop f1, just adding another defender to his pawn. Unfortunately, this is a blunder. Well, the computer says it's a blunder, but the reason is white is losing a pawn in the process, and the position falls apart. And it's all to do with a simple tactic of the pin. And in this case, there is a pin. The rook is pinning white's d3 pawn to the queen. If the d pawn ever moves out of the way, the queen is lost. And so this became a move. And that's what I played in the game. I took on c4, and I'll be honest, I would also not really know what to play in the position, because while you lost this pawn, you've now got an isolated pawn, and you'll see from here that this position started to fall sort of apart. He decided to play a3 here, if I remember. I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah. There we go. If I remember correctly, he played a3, which is the case. I accidentally pressed the wrong arrow. I'm sorry, people watching this, guys and gals. I am not the smartest or brightest tool in the set. So in this position, he forced my hand to take the pawn, because I didn't want to move my knight away. I just took his pawn. He took, and now I think the computer sees this as a mistake. The move he played, not what I played. He thinks the computer thinks my move was the best, but it thinks taking back with the bishop was a mistake, or rather an inaccuracy at this point. And well, I could take with the bishop, but this I think is simply the better move. Now I sort of feel bad for my opponent as we were sitting here, because he was starting to really tank, going into the think tank a lot here, and he played this move, and I was thinking here, looking at going, what do I play? Because, well, he is, well, pinning my rook to my bishop, so if my rook moves away, he can take my bishop. If my bishop moves away, he can take my rook. I could maybe just play rook e to d8, and just defend the rook. I could perhaps even play as rook d4, even though it's the knight could take. My bishop is hitting the queen, and that allows me to, in a sense, move my piece without losing it. And this allowed me to see the move that I played, because he actually also allowed himself to fall for the second, for another tactic called the discovered attack. And, well, I felt bad as he, well, yeah, I would feel pretty, in a sense, disgusted that this is possible at all, if I was in his shoes. And it is rook takes c3. The best move in the position, he can't take the bishop because the bishop is protected by the rook, and he can't take a rook because the queen is hanging to bishop c4. And so, basically, I just won a knight in this position. So I'm not only up a pawn, I'm up a knight as well. Now I just need to make sure I can stay up that knight, or else, yeah, I think it will get much harder to play for myself. So he played queen e4, getting out of the pin, attacking the bishop, and actually saying I can't play rook c2, just getting my rook out of trouble, because then I'd be hanging my rook. and wherever I move my rook to, I can't protect wherever I can't protect my bishop anymore. This is why in this position I actually played bishop d3. It's apparently not the best move. The best move apparently in this position is just to say, I'm gonna take your second knight and say I'm trading a rook for 2 knights, but I didn't know if this rook was really if I really wanted to trade the rook for 2 pieces, even though the material adds up to being worth more. I didn't really want to give up my rook. So I played bishop d3 with the idea of just saying, where is your queen gonna move to? And I'm just most likely gonna play my rook here, where it's no longer under attack and everything is defended and I can continue on with my life. And I sort of actually expected him to play the following move, just because I didn't see really a lot of moves he could play in the position. He couldn't go onto a light square except to play bishop takes on b7, and if he did that, for example, so queen takes on b7, which is the best move, I would have played rook c2. Just getting on the 7th rank and start putting, making it rather difficult. But he played queen e3. And with this move, I, carried on with my idea of playing rook b3. Now, even if he still could take the b7 pawn, he can't, because it's defended by the rook. And in this position, he played a move I didn't actually see was possible, but I came up with a solution to it when he played it, and it was to play knight d2 attacking the rook. So again, the threat is if you move your rook, I'm taking your bishop. If you move your bishop, I'm gonna take your rook. And so I decided in this position there is a tactical idea, and the idea is just to take on b2 with my rook. Now the reason this is not dropping the bishop really, it's just trading the bishop for the knight, and the reason for that being is if the queen took, which is apparently the best move, I would play rook d8. So skewing, I would say, the queen to the knight, and wherever the queen moves, I would take, and I have this beautiful rook battery on a 2nd rank. And I think that's why he didn't go for that. He has decided he's going to defend my bishop. He's just going to defend his knight instead. And I had 2 options in this position to either play. I decided I don't really want to move my bishop, and I really don't want my bishop to be undefended, and I didn't like the fact that my pawns could be weak. And this is why I played c4. It took in a sense also, it's just a good move. He then played knight f3, and I continued on with a secondary idea that came with as a benefit from playing c4, and that is bishop b6, hitting the queen once more. The queen again can't go on the 2nd rank for white, or the 7th rank for black, if you will, as my rook is controlling it. So he, in this position, played queen c1, playing a move that makes a lot of sense to me as attacking my rook. Now, in this position, I had 2 options. I could either take his f2 pawn with my rook, protected by my bishop, or I could take the pawn with my bishop with check and have it be defended by the rook. So I went for that instead. bishop takes on f2 check. His only move, I say only move, and there's a good reason for it, by the way, is, or is it? Huh. Yeah, it's not that simple. The best move would have been for him to play g2 in the position. Yes, I could play this, but this does not actually work as well as you'd like, as he would just take the rook. That's checking the king. Now, I'll be honest, I'm surprised the that the position is still that good if that happened, but yes, I would probably have to play bishop to d4. And in fact, this is a very strange... that's why. I see why. This the computer wants the queen to still take the rook. And that is because if this happens, it's mate in 6. And it's because of queen e6. And you sort of just hunt the king down. But he didn't play g2, he played king h1, which is forced mate in the position. And I know of the mating pattern of the... I've seen this pattern before where the two bishops just, well, slaughter the king on the diagonals and the rook just cuts it off. And what I should have played here, and I actually thought after the move I made that I made a mistake, but like I was making the game more complicated because I had to play precise in this position, but I felt like I was making this more complicated than needed after I made the move I did. I think I might have messed up. And the move I played was bishop d4, just protecting my rook. Now, interestingly enough, or rather not interestingly, but I think I could have found the move. The best move here is simply to play bishop to e4, threatening to take the knight with, well, checkmate. Leaving my rook completely to hang, because if he takes it, it's already unstoppable, but it would be mate in 1 if he takes my rook. So, yeah. And anyways, I played my bishop to d4, protecting my rook, and aiming for this idea of playing bishop to e4 still. And he sort of helped me play this idea. He took with his knight on d4, picking up bishop, and again I have to play correctly, because if I don't play correctly, he's gonna take my rook at the end of it, because my rook is hanging. And so I played bishop to e4 check with this move. And yeah, he has problems. What I was planning to play was, if he went to g2, I would play rook to g1, g2 check. He would have to play f3, and then I play queen f6 check, and checkmate is imminent. Well, actually, it's not that easy. You could play queen e4, but yeah, I would still take. So it's lost. In this position, it's completely lost if I play 100% accurately. But he did not play king to g2. He played knight to f3, which allows me to take. The king moves, and queen goes to c5 with check. And well, the opponent actually resigned here. Again, everybody, a lot of respect to Luca. He played really well, and yeah, I would say, if I could say what maybe was wrong with his play, was just simply that he played something that, to put it in perspective, right? I'll quickly go to the Explorer. e4, c5, c3. most played move in this position in the master's database is knight f6, and that's what I played. If you look at what the most played move is for white, it is just to play e5. Otherwise, it's to play d3. c2 has only been played 14 times. Whereas something even like d3 has been played at least 287 times, even though it's far less than the 21,000 games in e5. So I'm not sure if I would have been able to at all even win or not if he played e5 or d3. It would have been a different game, of course, but yes, so I would say again, it's not really just the opening. It's not just the I don't think the opening is what lost him the game. If you actually look at the point when he actually when the advantage actually fully started to go into my direction was at move 18 when he played bishop f1. That was what ultimately gave me an advantage, but also some of the pawn play and ideas in the position. But the computer says this is where black had a definite advantage. But anyways, accuracy-wise, I played at the accuracy of 91.5% according to Stockfish, and white played at the accuracy of 75.7%. As for estimated rating, it thinks I played at the level of a 1950, and it thinks white played at the level of a 1550. So really it thinks both of us played higher than our ratings. So yes. So the second game of the day was in fact actually, which was round 5. As you probably saw in the thumbnail, I beat Magnus. It's a little bit of spoiler, but my opponent in this game was Magnus Kleinhans. A little guy, a little dude. I think he's probably still in elementary school, and he is really good. So he was playing black, and I was playing white in this game. And well, it started off with c4. This is the opening I prefer. I play basically all the time. It's called the English, and yeah, it's very similar to d4 in a sense that it could lead to more positional gameplay, but it can also transpose. But I try not to transpose if I can help it. So I played c4, and he decided to play the symmetrical. Now, I don't have a lot of playing experience against c4, c5, which is known as the symmetrical variation, and it can be rather but not really boring, but frustrating to play as white because it's very hard to get an advantage at all. But the game got very interesting. And so I played knight f3, he played knight c6, and opening, I'll pretty much, if he plays knight f6 or knight c3, I play knight c3. So as long as his second move is a knight move, I make a knight move as well. I wait to see what he wants to do. And my knowledge pretty much after this move ended. This is as far as I know move order wise. From here I pretty much fought for myself. And he took, I took, rather he took on c5 and I took on e4. As for those who are actually listening to the game instead of just watching it, c4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, and also by the way, knight f3 controls e5, and knight c6 contests that control and allows e5 to be played in the future. And if he does play that, I just fianchetto. But anyways, or by playing g3 and playing bishop g2. I played knight c3, stopping him from playing d5 himself, because, well, he could technically play it, and I would have to take on c takes on d5, and he would probably take back with queen takes d5. Sorry about that if you hear me yawning. I'm just a bit tired. It's been a long day. Anyways, I would play knight c3 with a tempo, and he has to move his queen, and it's not really good. Like, I say knight c3 stops all of that, but it would have not been that bad for me if he could play it. It would actually be very good for me. Anyways, he played g6, getting ready to fianchetto his bishop to g7, and while playing he could either go for a sort of Botvinnik setup, which is e5 d6 with his g knight on e7, g8 knight on e7, and it would be castling. It's called the Botvinnik, as white could play it in the English. And it's called the Botvinnik system. I'm pretty sure as black it's also called the Botvinnik or something. But his idea is to just castle. It's no long I could copy him, of course, and just go into a symmetrical, like full symmetry line. But like the full symmetry line, not that easy to get a game where there's a lot of play for me as white. And my opening knowledge here is to say, if you're gonna fianchetto and castle, I'm gonna fianchetto. I'm not gonna fianchetto, I'm gonna play e3, preparing to play d4, and strike at the center. And so he played bishop g7, continuing with his development, and I played d4. Also, yeah, pretty much it. And so he took c takes on d4 because, well, he also doesn't like the idea of me pushing to d5 and just asking his knight, where are you going? And sort of just ruining the, I would say, the coordination of his pieces. Like, the knight probably will have to go to a square it doesn't want to be on. Anyways, he played c takes on d4, I played e takes on d4, and then he played e6. Now, I didn't immediately think there was anything wrong with it, because the idea makes sense. He just doesn't want me to play d5. Chase's knight playing d5, he can take. At least that's the idea of a move, except it doesn't stop it. I think he was also considering playing knight to e7 and castling. Instead of playing knight f3, he plays knight g to e7, so that he can actually then control d5 pretty well and possibly play d5 in the future. But I realize I can actually still play d5 here. We both have an isolated queen spawn, but I could, in that line, first off, his knight is under danger, and I could very likely as push the pawn and take away a lot of space. It's going to be harder to develop his light squared bishop, and I just felt instinctively, and I thought as well, because I did, think about, is it a good idea or not? I just felt that this should be a good move, and so I played it, and I feel this was a more attacking game than just positional. But I played d5. He took on He played e takes on d5, I played c takes on d5, and interestingly enough, the computer thinks taking, so this is for black, when black played e takes on d5, it thinks it was an inaccuracy. It actually thinks the best move is just to move the knight, which I find to be rather interesting. So, not sure what I would have done if he played it. I might have taken his knight. I might have just pushed. To be honest, I would have really thought hard and long about it. Actually, there's also a different thing I considered playing, actually, and that thing was... Actually, I remember there was a sort of idea I had in the back of my mind, and it was to play something like d takes on e6. Now, it's not necessarily good. It was an idea in the back of my mind. I would have, if he played knight e5, I would have thought about it for a bit longer, but the idea pretty much is, if he takes back, d takes on e6, I would trade queens, and he can't castle, and, well, yeah, I'm not saying it's a good idea, but yeah, I could, again, I would have thought about what to play next. Anyway, so I played this, he took, I took back on d5, and he threw a move in I did not see. And that I didn't see it when I played all this, that he could play queen e7 check. I did not see this in the future. I need to work on the depth of my calculation skills, but anyways, I had two options here. I could play to, well, block, basically. I'm not going to move my king here for no reason. It's just going to ruin the, I feel, the coordination of my pieces. So I had two options. The one option was to play bishop to e3, yes, blocking the check and having a nice, later on, nicely developed bishop. Or I could play bishop e2, also blocking, and in a sense protecting my knight. But I decide to play bishop to e3. And the main goal is just to block pretty much. And next up I'm gonna play knight bishop to c4, protecting my pawn, and so forth, so forth. I might even also play in this position d6. But his next move was to play knight to e5. And I looked at this, and I asked myself, but don't I have a strong attack? I saw this idea. Now, mind you, it's not the best move, but at least it's not necessarily a mistake or blunder. And the idea is simple: to play knight b5, targeting the c7 square, where I could possibly pick up a rook. Now, in this position, I did calculate, if I played this, what if he checked me? And he has exactly one check. Two checks, but one with his queen. And this check doesn't work. Because, well, first off, even though it's a check, my bishop protects the knight. And secondly, I could possibly just play knight to d2, blocking. But a better move would actually be to just play queen to, d2 to block it. And the reason for that is, in this position where the queen is standing, it sees my pawn, which is undefended. Now you might be asking, but if you reach this position, all of this. First off, if the queen took, knight could take back. But what if the knight takes? Are you going to move your king? What's going on? You know, and I actually fully prepared to take with the g-pawn here. I knew my knight was no longer being protected by my queen. But I was a man with a plan. And I felt that I wasn't actually that bad off in the position. Even though it's a big positional weakness, I didn't think I was that bad off. But anyways, I played knight to b5. Queen to b4 check happened. I blocked, like I said, with my queen on d2. And he then played knight takes on f3. I took back with my g-pawn, and he took. Still, and the reason being is that his queen is protected by his bishop, and I can't not. I could possibly just move my rook, but I felt it's just better to take. He took back, of course. If he gave me a move, I would just move my queen away. So he took, and I played rook d1. And the whole reason for that is that I can play pawn to d6, but it's an inaccuracy, and I should have actually as played like rook b1. It would have been better, it would have been more forcing. At the very least, it would have allowed me to play d6. Like it's very close to being forced. The reason why I say it would be forced is in this position he could actually now play e6. But he, luckily for me, even though I shouldn't depend on luck, he didn't play that. He played king f8, which makes sense. He just doesn't want his king to be hit by a check. Now, sadly, I missed a tactic here where I forcefully win his rook. I'll show it in a moment. You should see the eval says it's like 4.68 advantage. The next move will show you how big a deal this tactical miss was. It's basically equal. It's like 0.7, 0.8. There's a slight advantage for white, and I think in these cases it just means white's play is easier. But I lost my winning advantage, if you will, by playing d6, which I only realized the idea of this tactic after I played my move. And I felt really bad that I didn't go for it before. But the idea is simply to play knight c7. And if his only move is to play rook b7, or 8, sorry, you just take the a7 pawn with your knight, bishop, trapping his rook. And not only are you getting his rook, you are getting a pawn. A very, well, how to put it, depressing tactic. But I missed it. And he stopped it completely. It was, in fact, the computer sees this as a great move. First off, it opens up his bishop so that it can be developed. And the rook is no longer can no longer be forcefully taken. And at this point, I made the decision of that I was gonna play knight to c7, bishop to h3, and most likely king e2. That was more or less my idea at this point, like my game plan. Now, the reason I play knight c7 is it cuts off a square from black. So black, or rather black, the black king can never go to the e file anymore in this specific position, if I can get that. Secondly, he has to move his rook so that it's not captured or doesn't get captured. And my secondary move, bishop h3, targets his pawn. So it's not that easy to just move his own bishop. And so I played c7 with that idea of like, I'm getting a small-ish tempo, allowing me to make moves. And he played bishop c3 check. And like I said, instead of trying to block, I just moved my king to e2, protecting my long-term protecting the f3 pawn. He played rook to b8, getting out of the way. I was fine with it, and in fact, this is a very interesting thing that I saw after the game that I talked to somebody. He might not actually have needed to play that. But actually, yes, I remember why it doesn't work. So let's say in this position, he played something like this, and I took. Let's just say I played this. He could play bishop. And as you can see, this looks pretty much like a checkmate. My king can't go anywhere. And I would have to give up my rook. So it wouldn't be a loss at taking the rook. It's actually better for me. But yeah. Because also, when he takes that rook, I'm taking his minor piece, meaning I'm up a minor piece. But anyways. So he went to rook b8. I played my idea. And I was waiting for a while. I didn't want to touch my bishop on e3 because I was waiting for him to decide what he wants to play with his knight. And he played knight f6. Now this was a mistake, and this gave me the advantage again. Because of bishop h6 check. Now, his only move is to move his king to g8. Chances are the rook on h8 there's very little chances it's actually getting out of the position. And I am frankly just trying to checkmate my opponent in this position. I'm 100%, when I went for knight b5, I was doing everything in my... everything possible to attack and checkmate him. So yes, this is why the game looks so much different, I think, to my previous games. But anyways, he played the only move, because I mean, he's forced to play g8. There's no other move for his king. I then played rook d3 with the idea of, well, first off, it attacks his bishop on c3, making it move. Secondly, I'm going to bring my rook to e3 and try and bring it to the 7th rank. I actually did look at, is it possible for me to play rook e8 check, but there's no real checkmate in that position. There is a possible variation that would work. Also, just to mention, even though the computer says this is only like plus 3.7, I think it's probably much worse than that. And the reason for that is, how do you move a piece in black's position? But anyway, so he played bishop a5 in the position, and I played e3. Now, I'll be 100% honest, if he didn't play the next move, I could have possibly maybe forced checkmate. But anyways, he played bishop b7, yes, bringing his rook to the open file, opening up his rook and opening up his bishop. And yes, I can't play this type of stuff anymore. Now, what I was talking about was, if he didn't play the bishop move, I could play knight to d6. And you might be asking, but isn't that blundering your knight? Well, rook to e8 check is a checkmate. And if he did not do that, I could play knight to e7 checkmate, smothered mate if you will. And that would have been awesome to pull off, but yes, my opponent was just too good. So he played bishop e7, and I played rook to e7. The main reason for it is I want to take this pawn. So if I take this pawn, I actually get a passed pawn. And I couldn't take it before with my bishop, because his knight is protected, but now I can. He decided to play b5, and honestly, I almost fell for his idea. The computer thinks it's an inaccuracy, and I understand why it thinks this is just a bad move. I'm not saying it's a good move, but it thinks there's nothing necessarily very bad about taking. So it looks at first as if he is pinning, as if he's dropping a pawn, and I was actually pretty shocked when I saw this at first, because I was like, why would he drop a pawn? This does not make sense. And I looked at it, and I saw the idea, and was like, this is a very sly dude. I was quite impressed. As the idea is simply, if I take, he's gonna pin my knight to my king, and as you can see, a lot of my advantage drops when that happens. It's definitely not. It's, I think, close to a mistake, or even inaccuracy, or close to a mistake, and the computer says, yeah, you still have a +2 advantage, you just play a4. But I think you give a lot of play to black in this position. So instead of going for that, I went on with my plan of taking. With my bishop on d7, he took back the pawn with his knight. So he took knight takes d7. I played rook takes d7. And yeah, I was just gonna basically try and figure out how to make this work. I get my rook out of the way, stuff like that. And I'm not sure why he played the next move, actually. I have no clue why. But he's made it. It's a mistake. It's a clear mistake. So, yes, it might just be very much be in the name of the move. That the reason he played it was because it was a mistake. He maybe calculated wrong. I don't know. And so he actually took with his bishop my knight. And this is bad because it actually gives me a passed pawn, and it attacks his rook, which is not good. Now, there's one little thing that I feel very proud of in this game, is you'll see at the end. So he played rook e8 check, and well, I played king d3. I didn't want to, I just moved my king, and I saw this idea, and it's like, so the thing is, black still can't really move a piece, not at all. But the thing that really, I had ideas of playing, for example, rook to d8, and saying I'm gonna trade rooks, I'm gonna, promote, stuff like that. But a thing that I expected him to do, because it's a hanging pawn in my position, I expected him to play it. But it's not a good move because of my response. And he played bishop f3. And I actually got from Stockfish or chess.com's and game analysis a brilliant move for a classical game, and well, that's amazing. And yeah, simply the move is rook e1. Let me just do this. Come on. Why aren't you working with me? Is there something I'm missing? Yeah. So, well, as you can see, brilliant C mark. And you look at this and you're like, well, aren't you just dropping the rook? But it's, well, if he can't take the rook, and he also can't not take the rook. And the reason is that if he takes the rook, this is checkmate. And if he tries to, do something about his back rank, try to move his pawn somewhere, that's going to be checkmate as well, because let's say he plays f5, this is checkmate. If he plays his rook to any other square, like a square that it can't be captured, I just play d8 check and he's forced to take. And it's forced checkmate in this position. There is no way to actually get out of it. Basically, the Stockfish wants to extend the amount of time it gets to be checkmated. Just check, 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 and give up pieces. But yes, so Magnus resigned in this position against me. So then it's only left the last game. But also another piece of knowledge. This was my 5th game, and I've previously played in so most of the tournaments I've been playing in over the board is 5-round tournaments, and the most points I've gotten in a tournament was 4 points. And by beating Magnus, I got my first time tournament with 5 points, and it felt amazing. Or rather, not necessarily just amazing. It was the achievement for me. I have not been. This is my best tournament so far. And yeah, so a lot of things was going through my mind. I might be able to win the tournament. First time I'm going to be in the top 3 in a tournament, and most likely also the first time I'm going to have a chance at winning the tournament for real. And so a lot of things was going through my mind after this game. And so, yeah, this last game, this round 6, did not go. The gameplay was not as good as I would like it to be, unfortunately. So, my opponent is Thomas Nakeng, rated 1308, and I'm 1370. He's one of the only other 2 people. So there's 3 people at this point in the tournament with 5 points. Me, Thomas Nakeng, and the guy I'm playing tomorrow in my 7th round, Anton Schultz. And I heard that Thomas plays both e4, d4, and well, I didn't know what to expect, but I decided to take it. I'll go for it, but yeah, I didn't do as well. And I think the best way to put it, chess.com's game analysis actually puts it this way. Black clinched victory with a well-executed endgame checkmate from a stronger position. I know that sounds like, oh, I played this game very well, but to put it in perspective, right? The game of Magnus, the accuracy score I had in the Magnus game was 87%, 87.2, and Magnus had a 71.9% accuracy rate. My estimated rating was 1800 and his 1300. Now to compare to my game with Thomas, my accuracy fell from 90, 80, from the 80s and 90s% to 76.3%. I had a real chance of losing this game more than once. And also, to put it this way, my estimated rating was 1450 for this game. So I didn't play this game well at all. And I am hoping to play my next game much better. But anyways, to start with the game. So Thomas decided to start with the game with e4. And, well, you've guys seen what I play c5 with Sicilian. Now, I don't know what he was going to play. And interestingly enough, he went for something that I actually want to play more to learn. And it is the open Sicilian. Or at least the start of it. Knight f3 is the indication that white is planning on playing d4 soon. Opening the center, basically exploding it. And so I played d6. Just stopping him from playing e5, because if he does, I take. And yeah, that's pretty much it. He played d4. I took on c takes d4. He took back with his knight, so knight takes on d4. And then I played knight f3, targeting his pawn again. He can't really play e5, because if he plays e5, I'm gonna take with my pawn, hitting his knight, and I'm probably gonna trade queens at that point. So if you're wondering what that looks like, it's this. And as you can see, the computer thinks this is a very good position for black. Anyways, he played knight c3, and I played a6. Now, let me be 100% honest with you. I'm actually still in my opening prep, and I play the Najdorf variation. This is the start of the Najdorf. And there's a lot of moves that white can play in this position, and every one of them has its... almost each one of them has a different response. So, yeah, I want to get to play a Najdorf more. Yes, sir, I know it more, because I can easily see lose in it. And interestingly enough, Thomas went for bishop d3. There's not a specific variation for this. It's just called the Najdorf, but it is a move that masters play or have played. And I looked at this, and I remember somewhere far deep in my opening notes, not like in the tournament or anything. It's just opening training I do. That I play e5 here. And if he plays, knight to b3, I just play bishop e7 and I castle. If he plays f3, I still play bishop e7 to castle. And this, because he's most likely going to castle. And there's a small other reason as well. And in this case, it's not a problem, but in a different position. And that's how I more or less learned it. Is if he plays e3, which is the English attack, but for now, ignore that. The main line is still to play e5. If he plays knight f3, I actually do need to play e7. It's sort of forced. And the idea is, if I don't play that, he could take. It's bad in this position, because I played e7, bishop e7, but if I took back and I didn't have the bishop on e7, he could take my queen. And to put it in perspective, I'll show that by playing bishop e6, and you can see it's not bad. That it's not necessarily good, but it's an idea, and I don't like that idea a lot. Like, I think white can get a very strong attack. But anyway, so he went for f5, and I remember in my notes, and frankly, I know this move and the next move, and that's when I start to think for myself. And it is to take with your bishop. It's strictly equal, this position. Maybe a bit in black's favor, but it's equal. And the idea is that when white takes back, you play d5, taking the full center. So when you play e5, and he plays knight to f5, you take on, bishop takes on f5, e takes on f5, you play d5. And then you just play. Now, I'm not really happy with the decisions I made in the game at this point. White, so Thomas went with bishop g5. And, well, he pinned my knight to my queen. And I honestly had so many better moves, but my head wasn't in it. I really feel disgusted by myself, in a sense. And, like, a move I could have played here, because on the thing he's threatening with bishop g5 is that he could take, queen takes, so bishop takes on f6, queen takes on f6, knight takes on d5. That's an idea. But a move I could have played, killing two birds with one stone and even making it even be stronger, is to play bishop b4, pinning his knight to his king, and I could in the future play d5, d4. The computer also thinks just playing knight to c6 is a very good move. But I played very passively, because I was like, I want to protect my knight and I want to protect my pawn, so the only way to do it is to play e6. Bishop e7, e7. And yeah, I'm not happy. He played f3, which was a mistake. The way I punished it, or tried to punish it, was bad. The computer wants me to play knight b to d7, just connecting the knights, and, you know, start to work on castling, and, you know, just doing all the good things that I say you should do in the opening. But no, Basil just goes and ignores all of his own advice, and he sees that playing e4 is not possible because f takes, and d takes, bishop takes. But I make something happen. Whether that's a good thing or not, I make something happen, and my mind was just, you know, thinking, let's go, let's attack, let's go. And there was very little thinking going on. It was more like a barbarian, you know, ooga booga, you know, like Levi says, and yeah, me attack bishop. Anyways, so I played e4, and now I see the advantage completely switched to white, because he's winning a pawn simply with this. So he takes accurately, f takes e4, and I take back not accurately, but because this whole sequence is not accurate on my side. The start of it, at least, is d takes on e4. I think yeah, the computer wants actually that I has played d4. Like, yeah, it's bad. Anyways, and I actually was still thinking I'm better. Like, if he takes with his bishop, I can take his bishop, or some sort of weird nonsense going on in my head. But the idea was simply, I'm gonna take his queen and he has to take back with his king, and I'm gonna castle, except his rook can take. I'm not getting any of those good stuff. But luckily for me, my opponent made a small trading, like move order mistake. By playing bishop takes on f6 in this position, he should have played bishop e4, and he's just better. Whereas what I did, what he did, was allow me to take back. Now white is no longer a great advantage. He's still better, or slightly better, but he's not like massively better, at least according to the eval bar. And then Thomas made his second small mistake, and that was to take with his bishop. And you see the computer's just like, this is minus 4. And it's not that I'm up material minus 4, it's just positionally I'm better. And it's because of the following. Bishop takes c3 check. He's forced to take back with, b takes on c3, which will lead to a damaged pawn structure, and, he takes, and then my next check comes in, where I force his king to move, and then I will castle. Now, he played king d2. It's good that he did not play anything else, because if he played g3, he hangs his bishop. If he plays king to e2 or f1, he hangs his bishop. But by playing king d2, he does not hang his bishop, or at least I didn't see how to win the bishop. Or at least I didn't think winning the bishop right now was possible. But yeah, he's really, I would say, laid a nice little trap for me. And the reason for that is, if you're wondering, isn't this, undefended? Well, it's this. Your queen is pinned to your rook, and white is winning. So apparently what I should have played was queen f4, making the king move, and the best move apparently would have been to play d3, and I would have had to play knight e7, getting ready to play another check. And if he played rook f1, I play knight f5, and yeah, it gets very dangerous. But I didn't see any of that, and instead, I believe, yes, I just castled. So I no longer had that massive advantage, but I still had an advantage. He decided to play queen f3. Not really sure why. Oh, I know why. It was to defend his bishop and also attack my b7 pawn. And I decided right here the best move of action is to develop my knight and connect my rooks at the same time with knight c6, but this was an inaccuracy, and I started slowly but surely losing the small advantage I had, and this was an endgame, and you actually really need advantages to win an endgame. And or accurate play, and he played an inaccuracy, giving me advantage back. So I just took back with, so he played bishop takes c6. and I played b takes on c6. His next move was apparently a mistake, as he played rook a to e1. Now, again, I will be honest, I think I'm not very bad at endgames, but I can't really tell you what he should have played. Like, honestly, I don't know. I don't know what would have been the best move. I don't even know fully why this is a bad move. Like, hey, the rook is on an open file. Maybe if I look at the computer's move it wanted to be played, it wanted rook 8 to be played to e1, which at the same time makes me go, isn't that that's I think I see. No, I think you're dropping a pawn. I don't know. The computer knows what it thinks. But anyways, he played rook e1, and the computer wants me to play rook f to d8 check, but I had my own ideas in mind, and it was to play c4. He can't really move his king that easily, and well, I considered the idea that he just might go and say, rook, he attacks me with his rook, or he might play. So let me put it this way. He might think in this position that trading queens is a very good idea, but when I pin his queen, so for example, via this, I would be able to pick up his queen for a rook. That's one of the reasons I played this. The other reason was that if he plays e4, I play rook a d8 check, and basically he can't afford to not take. And I'll explain why in a moment, but if he, for example, just moved his king away, I mean, it's just, I had ideas. Going through all of them is not going to be that useful, because I don't remember all of them, to be honest, but yes. So he did actually go for rook e4, and I played rook d8. Now, let me explain why this is sort of a dangerous position. Or at least the reason why it was good. He fought for a long while on his move where to move his king. So, let's say he says, I play king c1. Well, queen takes on a2, and white is almost checkmated. King to e3, queen takes, and I might be able to win a bunch of pawns, and I'm happy. Yeah, if he played king e1, I'll be honest, I probably would have just taken a2. Went on with my life. The computer wants me to play. The computer wants me to play rook f to e8, and again, it's sort of a disgusting move. He can't take my queen because he's pinned. Anyways, but you'll notice I made a very small. I would say it was a mental block I had in the endgame, and that was to never move my rook on f8 unless I really felt I had to. At some point it did come into the game, but I didn't want to blunder back rank checkmate pretty much. That's all it was. So he played rook d4. I took with check, with rook takes d4 check. He played c takes on d4, and I played queen d4 takes d4 check. He blocked with his queen, and it did not feel at all like the right move to play. And I tried to make some stuff work. I first played queen f4, trying to win his pawn on f5 if he blocks, but yeah, he just runs. And yeah, I'll just go through the game because it's just better, I think, in a sense, easier to just solve and try and explain moves for the end game. End game, really, it's hard to say what you should do. I will, however, mention there is one thing you can try and implement in your games. I've heard this being said by a guy who taught chess, and basically in an end game, it's good to centralize your pieces, like your not pawns pieces, like queens and rooks and stuff, but specifically queens. And it's almost always a good thing if you can put your queen in the center. And at some point, it actually, I would say, in this game, comes to light how big a deal it is. So, queen e5 check, king moves. I give another check on queen b5, on b5. He plays king c3, and I play queen a5 check. So I had, it was a very simple, I would say, trap that if he played king to d4, he loses his queen. It was my small little trap, and that was it. Didn't work though, as he did go for the better move, king b2. I played king rook b8 check, and as you can tell, the king does not have any squares, so this was quite dangerous for the for the white king, and I tried to well, let me say, catch him in a sense, see if he slips up or not, but he didn't slip up in this position. So I play queen b4 with the idea of just either playing b2 checkmate, or if he plays rook to b1, queen takes b1 checkmate. And his only move is to, well, block it with his queen. And that's what he did. And I just moved my queen with the idea of, well, giving a check. If he, well, blocks with his queen, it's a checkmate. But yes, he has one move. Technically two. The other one I didn't consider at all because that drops his queen completely, and that is to play king b1. But yeah, I thought he would play c3. He did, and I said in this position all I'm gonna do is bring back my queen to e5, protecting my rook. And he, well, his rook was still hanging, his queen was hanging, so he played queen c2. And I decided in this position it would be really, really nice if I could just try and do what I did in the previous game with a pawn just cutting off squares, but possibly making it hard for his king to, have breathing room. And this is why I started pushing my a-pawn, trying to push my a-pawn all the way to a3. Maybe later on, if some stuff goes well, it might even become a pass pawn, maybe another queen, or so forth. So a5, he played h3. I think it was for the purpose of defending his, so that I don't capture on a2. I played a4, and he brought rook b1, and I had to think, do I take, do I not take, do I move my rook? And at the end I decide, well, if I move my rook, I'm losing my pawn, most likely, on a4. So, but actually I was wrong. I realized that now, if I moved my rook and he took my pawn, I would be able to it would be pretty much checkmate, but anyways, yeah. Anyway, so I said I'm not going to move my rook, I'm going to keep it there and play, well, a3. He took my rook with rook takes b8, I played queen takes on b8. I'm forced, basically. Okay, not forced, but any other move would lead to checkmate for him, and I don't want to lose. He played in this position queen to b3. Now, the best move here would have been to play queen a7, protecting the pawn and making it very possible to go to the back rank. So let's say he plays g3 as an example. I give him a check, and well, if he plays b1, I start picking up some pawns, and it's always sort of protecting. I don't know all the ideas, but yeah, it's one of the ideas. But I didn't play that, and that basically gave away my advantage I had. This was apparently a very big mistake playing d6, and I lost my advantage. Luckily, I don't see an eval bob while playing, because first off, that would be wrong, take away the fun of the game, be cheating, and it would be very bad to see this thing where it's like, oh, you made a mistake. But anyways, I played this with the idea of just protecting my pawn and protecting against checkmate. And he decided to start moving his king, and this was a missed opportunity for him. The moves he apparently should have played was either g4, which makes sense, or actually king b4. And yeah, I think it's trying to go for a draw, or at least a trade of queens. So the line is queen d1, queen b1, queen d6, and you start repeating. So yeah, I don't think it's really that bad a move I played, but anyways, endgames are tough. So I played queen d6, he played b1 trying to get out of a position, and in this position I played queen d3 check. Idea was simple here. If he plays, he is most likely gonna either block with his queen or move his king. Whether one of the two it is, I'm gonna I was aiming for the following. He moves, let's say to king c1. I play queen f1. He moves, and I take a pawn with check. Like, just eat up all the pawns with checks. But yeah, so he played king c1. I played queen f1, like I said. And I saw this idea of queen d1, but yeah, I was, again, like my head wasn't where it was supposed to be at. So he played queen d1, blocking the check, and if I don't take him and I don't play the right move, I could be checkmated. So I decided, okay, let me get out of here. I'm gonna play queen f4 check. He blocks again, so now again I need to make a move, and I decide, well, I'm just gonna bring my queen back all the way to the back rank, protecting everything. And again, advantage. There's a slight advantage for black, but it's close to equal. He played queen c2, which I'm not sure why he played it. All I can really assume is he is trying to play f3. But at this point, and again you see the eval bar slowly going up, and it says that this was an inaccuracy, that it allows the move I played. And basically, I was like, I am kicking out a window or a door in my house that I can never be killed on the back rank, and so I played h5. The idea is, if he ever plays g5, I just take, and I've got an escape square. Now I don't need to be worried that much about my queen getting in a scenario it shouldn't be. He decided to play queen f2. Again, I'm not entirely sure what his goal was with that move, but okay. I decide, okay, I'm gonna start targeting as many pawns as possible, as many threats as possible with each move right now, because I don't need to be worried about covering back rank. I can just now try and win pawns. And so I played Queen E5 first, with the idea of, if he's not gonna defend it, I'm gonna take Queen C3. He decided to defend it with King C2. And then I played Queen D5, threatening, well, again, it's not threatening 2 pawns. It looks at them, but it doesn't defend them. And it's F5 and G2. And the other one that actually is being threatened right now is A2, the pawn on A2. Fact is, if he doesn't move his king or queen, and I can take A2, it's gonna be a check and a skewer, and I'm picking up the queen at the minimum. So, yeah, that's a threat. Now, here's the thing. I was sitting there like, but wait, I'm not. There's a way to stop it, and I'm not sure how I'm gonna make a lot of progress here, but I'll continue. In my mind was saying, the move that he's gonna play is King C1, as it protects, as the queen protects the pawn, and I was thinking I'm just gonna play something like D3 or C4, just trying to put as much pressure as possible. Just keep applying it and see if he makes a mistake, lets something fall, etc. But I realized here he might actually fall for, I would say he might blunder here. You see, I'm targeting the pawn, so why not move the king to protect the pawn? Makes sense. 100%. We don't see C1 necessarily, and we're like, well, if we're going to move our king, why not move it closer to the pawn we're protecting, or whatever. Except this leads to mate in 1. And that's what happened in the game. Again, this was a very fun game, and I hope to play Thomas again. But yeah, I really need to play better. Now, yes, so those who are interested in knowing what game review things I played at 1450's estimation. So, not good. But yeah, I've got 6 points, and tomorrow I'm playing my 7th round against Anton Schulz. And yeah, hopeful. So I'll see what happens. I'll post a recap tomorrow of the games. And yeah, I hope to win. But anything can happen. I mean, he's also hoping to win, so yeah, I'll say I hope that I don't play badly. I think that's a more reasonable hope than saying I hope to win. So, if any of you have any questions or requests, feel free to comment in the comment section down below the video. If you wanna, just ask questions, maybe you've got like, hey, can you make a video on something like an opening or concept or whatever? I'm freely available. We'll make the video, like it will help me get ideas on stuff to make. But as well, I would really appreciate it if you could at least subscribe. I don't mind if you like the video or not. But apparently it's good if you like it. But honestly, I appreciate it much more if you actually watched the video until now. But yes, subscribing would be nice. Just seeing the numbers go up, And of course, commenting would also be nice. But anyways, see you all in the next video. Ah, uh, cheers.